I've talked before about people not considering things deeply, not really seriously thinking about things, about people being NPCs and just spouting out whatever nonsense they've been taught without seriously considering things. And as evidence of this, you'll notice some people will hold two contradictory statements in their mind at the same time. And it's odd to me that people do this, but it's very, very common. And an example is, if you ask a Christian, should Christians be sinning or not? Simple question. It's not complicated. But they have a tendency to complicate it. Should Christians be sinning? That's a yes or no question. It should have a yes or no answer, but it's very common for them to start rambling about all kinds of stuff. Oh, well, we all fall short, and they come up with all kinds of excuses for sin is what they're looking for. And they're complicating it when it's super simple. Yes or no question. Christians supposed to sin? Yes. Christians supposed to sin? No. And if you can get them to lock that down, then they'll answer no, Christians are not supposed to be sinning. And these same Christians will all say that the law is done away with. We're free from the law. We're not under the law. They'll say things like that, which is clearly a contradictory. Two different things here. The law defines what sin is. If you're not using the law to define what sin is, what's your standard? Oh, I did something and I felt bad about it, so I guess that was sin, Or, well, Johnny Cash committed adultery, but they got married and had a wonderful marriage, so it was okay. What are you talking about? God defines what sin is. You don't get to define it. I don't get to define it. Your preacher at your local apostate church, he doesn't get to define it. God says what sin is. That goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God says what's good. God says what's evil. And so how can you say you're not under the law and Christians aren't supposed to be sinning? That doesn't make sense. Which is why they complicate it. That's one of the ways people get around this when they have these two contradictory statements, is they'll obfuscate, they'll complicate, they'll confuse everything, and they'll just start talking in circles. And so this is evidence of what the Bible describes as eyes that don't see and ears that don't hear. Because it's super simple, very simple. We're supposed to follow God's commandments. Blanket statement. There's no budging on this. We're supposed to be Christ-like. We're supposed to follow what Christ did, and that's how he was perfect. He was sinless because he followed God's laws, and he told us to be perfect like him. And immediately people are, oh, well, nobody's perfect, blah, 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 all that. That doesn't mean you don't try. That doesn't mean you don't make an effort to follow his example. And all these people that just want to reject the law, what do you think is going to happen on Judgment Day? Yeshua talks about Christians, specifically Christians he's speaking to on Judgment Day, the ones that he's going to reject, that he says, go away, I never knew you. What Christians do you think that is? Those who practice lawlessness, those who don't follow the law. And maybe I'm rambling too much, but it's super simple. Christians aren't supposed to sin. God defines what sin is. He wrote it down. It's the commandments. It's God's law that defines what sin is. Follow it. And if you can't understand something that simple, then you don't have eyes to see and ears to hear. And that's a problem. You need to have that. And if you can't understand something that simple, go back to the basics. Fear God and follow his commandments. Start obeying him and praying for eyes to see and ears to hear. So it starts with read your Bible.